Jeff Moore is a leadership coach and former championship coach of the University of Texas women's tennis team. During his tenure at Texas, his teams beat the odds, winning multiple NCAA national championships and earning Jeff honors including National Coach of the Year, an induction into the Longhorn Hall of Honor, and the Texas Tennis Hall of Fame. Today, as CEO of Moore Leadership, Jeff works with executives, educators, and coaches across industries, translating the principles of elite performance, trust, and team culture from the court into leadership and life. Please enjoy my time with Jeff. Hey, y'all. Let's go there. Well, welcome, Jeff Moore.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you here in my home. Thank you for making the time during this hectic time of year.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. We met through a mutual friend, somebody I really love and admire, Tony Capasso.
Right.
And he speaks so highly of you. And he was adamant that I have you on the podcast. He was adamant that we know one another.
Mm-hmm.
And he just sings your praises.
Well, he should be my agent then. Right?
Yeah, totally right.
Yeah.
He is the best hype man.
Yeah.
I would hire Tony as an agent in a heartbeat.
Well, I got to know him when he was a lot younger.
Yeah.
So I got to make an impression. Yeah. I don't know if he told you.
Did y'all meet? I was trying to figure this out. Did y'all meet at UT or did y'all meet? Okay.
I was the head women's tennis coach, and he was the brand new assistant soccer coach, pretty much fresh out of Notre Dame, maybe a couple years separated.
Yeah.
Finance major, a lot of spunk. And we just got into these long conversations, and he kept following me everywhere. We talk about training and developing people. Again, I wasn't the soccer coach, I was the tennis coach, but he wanted to talk about those kinds of things to the point where at times we'd be by the water cooler and our admin would say, could you take this somewhere else? Because we've got people coming in for meetings.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like Tony for sure.
Yeah.
He's always trying to glean insight.
Well, and my thought at the time was either he's going to be an amazing head coach or he's going to be amazing something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because while he was an assistant, he was already starting a business with our Bulgarian strength coach, who's another entirely fascinating story, Angel Spasov. He was building a business with Angel.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Speed training, and you could already tell he was entrepreneurial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't know this about Tony. I'm going to have to ask him about it.
Yeah.
So I think what's interesting about your background too, and you have amazing accolades, 2 national championships, over 18 conference championships, if I'm not mistaken, 3 times to the finals. And I think what's also interesting about your background is that not only did you transition from coaching in the university to coaching in the executive world, but you were coaching women.
Right.
And I'm curious about that and what took you to women's tennis?
Well, you have to go back to the beginning of my coaching career, which is very unusual. I graduated from the University of Redlands in California.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Johnston College, which is part of Redlands, which was experimental like Antioch. So we designed all our own courses, no grades. It was fascinating.
Like a humanitarian degree? Or it was psychology, wasn't it?
It was educational psychology.
Okay.
But we designed our courses.
Okay.
We had no grades. We had narratives. I mean, it was quite progressive.
Wow.
But I come from a family of educators. My dad was a head of school all over the country, always setting trends, always breaking boundaries. So it was sort of in my DNA. But I graduated and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wasn't one of those people that, I'm going to major in business. I want to be this or that. I want to be wealthy. I want to be an engineer. I didn't know. I didn't seem to mind that I didn't know. So I graduated and I was teaching tennis lessons, working part-time for admissions. And I thought maybe I will do what my dad did, and I will apply to be a teacher in independent schools around the country. So I did that, and I didn't really have my heart in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was part of a co-ed volleyball team, and one day after a game, one of the girls in the team came up to me and said, Jeff, Claremont and Pomona have women's basketball teams. We don't have one. So I went to the athletic director and I said, we need a women's basketball team. And he said to her, well, they need to find a coach. So she looked at me and said, would you coach? And I went, I'd never coached anything.
And you were a tennis player to boot.
And I was a tennis player. I'd played all football, basketball, baseball. I was more of a all sports athlete, but
Yeah.
still, I'd been a tennis player in college. I went, sure. Well, and at the time, I remember thinking that's kind of cool, but again, I hadn't coached anything. And what I was planning to do was get a teaching job in a school and then be a coach on the side. That's what was done in those days. But again, I wasn't excited about it. So I started, that's how I got started. And it's funny because I went back this past year to help celebrate the 50th anniversary of women's athletics at the University of Redlands.
Wow.
And I threw out the first pitch at the softball game. And what's funny about that is usually when you throw out the first pitch at something, it's because you've just done something, you've been to the moon, did something amazing. And I was the first. That's it. I wasn't very good. I was 23 years old. I was not good. I was feeling my way. I was probably coaching basketball the way my coach had coached me. And
yeah, but you still said yes. And that yes created a ton of possibility for women at that university. So I think that is significant from my point of view, from my perspective.
It was. And I asked her at the 50th anniversary, I said, Lori, why did you pick me? And she goes, I don't remember. I mean, because I knew most of these players. I mean, I was basically their age.
Yeah.
So, but I think the fact that I ended up coaching men and women throughout my career. I coached 2 years at Redlands, the basketball. The second year, I also coached the tennis team, and the tennis team was able to improve drastically over 4 months. We did really well at the end. And I thought, I'm not bad at this and I like it. Let's keep going. But still, it wasn't quite a career yet. So, but the thing in hindsight that I learned from that is, I think today there's too much emphasis on the word purpose. And not that that's a bad word, it has bad meaning. But I think the emphasis should be on finding some meaning in something. So basically, in hindsight, I found something that had meaning to me and I was pretty good at it and I went for it. But I think in hindsight, if I'd been waiting for my calling,
it might have passed you up.
I mean, it's a high bar and I'm 23.
Yeah.
And I don't know nothing.
And were you enjoying yourself? Was that part of it too? Did enjoyment play a role?
With the coaching? Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you said something that I don't want to skip over. You said in that 4-month time period that y'all really improved significantly, the men's tennis team.
Women's.
The women's tennis team. Yeah. What was it about that? What drove that improvement from your perspective?
Well, before taking that job, my coach at Redlands was probably the best tennis coach ever. His name is Jim Verdick. His dad, he came from a poor background. His dad left home at 11. He had to help support the family. He ends up going to San Bernardino Junior College, plays football. Their football team won the championship in the Rose Bowl against Pasadena City College. Wow. He scored the winning touchdown. He was carried off the field. The star of the other team was Jackie Robinson.
Whoa.
So I have a newspaper clipping of All-American Junior College, Jay Verdick, Jay Robinson.
Wow. Then
he goes into World War II in the Marines, becomes the Marine fitness champion, becomes a pilot, and he's the only American to land on Saipan and rescue people getting shot at. So he gets the Distinguished Flying Cross.
Yeah.
Then he does something unheard of in those days. He was in junior college. He goes to Stanford and plays football there. Then he goes to Redlands and to coach football. And they said, well, can you coach tennis as well? Yeah, I can do that. And he ended up switching over and taking over tennis after having the only undefeated football team ever at Redlands. He switched full-time to tennis and had 15 national championships during his time. And
wow.
Every day he would say, every day is an opportunity to get better. And that stuck with me. So after I got finished playing, I would study his practices. And he had some very famous people in doing clinics. And he had Dennis Vandermeer, who at the time was the top tennis clinician. He was training coaches on the Redlands courts. He knew Coach Verdick. And one of his pupils was Margaret Court, who at the time was #1 in the world. He would give her a lesson the number one player in the world, on our front court. So I was there with my legal pad. So I was sort of already, I think, learning. And so I channeled all that into my coaching. And looking back on it, what I began to focus on, which I lost temporarily midway through my career, was I was focused on the process, how we competed, not the winning, the getting better.
Yeah.
Um, we ran in the sand, the river wash. Running in the sand is hard. I mean, I ran demanding practices, but the players got excited about the challenge.
Yeah.
And got better. So it was fun. I go, I can do this.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
And then from there, you went to Colorado, if I'm not mistaken? Okay.
Well, yes. And of course, at that time, coaching college tennis was not a full-time job. You had to teach BE or something, and I didn't want to do that. So again, I was still on the track of, let's go get a job in a school somewhere. Let's get going. And I was in Colorado where my parents were living at the time. My dad was the head of school at Ken Denver in Englewood. He had just merged those two schools. And so I was staying with them. And the Colorado job came open, the women's job. And it was right around the beginning of Title IX. And I went up and interviewed. And there was another guy who was in the finals with me. He was a gymnastics and tennis coach from a high school in Atlanta. He came in his powder blue leisure suit. That was my competition. So I got the job, and it was $2,700 a year. So I still had to sell tickets for the Denver Nuggets, do all these little things.
Side hustles.
But again, I got to do something I loved. And then eventually the men's coach retired, so I coached both teams.
Okay.
And I got to make 12.6. Right?
Big bucks at that point.
Yeah, so I had to get a job in the summer, but, and that wasn't bad in those days. The women's basketball coach was making 20. I thought, oh my God, can you imagine?
Big game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my starting salary in the tech world when I came out was something like 16.5. That was my first offer right out of the gates. Yeah. I can totally relate. Okay. And then how did UT come about?
Well, first of all, Colorado was not exactly at the epicenter of tennis. It's high altitude. The budget wasn't great. The courts are always dirty. And so what am I going to do? But it didn't, again, I was doing something, obviously, looking in hindsight, that I loved.
Yeah.
So I got transfers. I recruited some good players. They got better. We got into the top 20 on the women's side. Then I took over the men's side. We did pretty well there. And we ran a tournament for the top 8 teams in the country, an indoor tournament. I mean, what was I thinking? I had to rent a court from Atlanta that we had to roll out, not realizing that it could be, what kind of shape was it in? It's not in good shape. All of these obstacles I had but again, I was just going for
Ignorance is bliss. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we would run this tournament, and North Carolina team came in, and my assistant couldn't pick them up at the airport. So I went down and got the team. And the coach at the time said, the Texas job is open. And I said, oh. So I rushed back and got a FedEx application in to Texas and got an interview.
Wow. What year was this?
1982.
Wow, that feels divine.
Yeah.
The fact that you weren't supposed to be there in that moment and you just happened to be there.
Yeah. And well, I mean,
or that you tried to send somebody else.
I probably would have heard of it. I'm not quite sure why I hadn't heard of it, but they obviously weren't reaching out to me. And I interviewed well in hindsight. But there were a couple of coaches interviewing ahead of me who had top 10 teams, and I guarantee you they had to have royally messed up their interviews because I slid in there. And I was the 4th women's tennis coach in 5 years.
Whoa.
So the program was struggling, and they're just looking for some sort of consistency.
So here you are, the wild card coming into UT. And what was that like? So they've had a lot of turnover. The team's not doing well. How did you approach it?
The team was, not doing well at Colorado. They would have been thrilled with, again, top 20.
Yeah.
But top 20, top 15 was, at that time, virtually every program, actually every other program was in the top 10.
Yeah.
We had an athletic director named Donna Lopiano, one of the most brilliant people I've ever been around. And without her, there would have not have been Title IX. She became the AD at Texas at, I believe, at age 28.
Whoa.
She spent a lot of time in Washington lobbying for, working for Title IX. And she wanted excellence. She was very intimidating. She's now, I don't know if she's retired or not, she became executive director of the Women's Sports Foundation when she left Texas. And when she would be on stage with some of these male commissioners, you know, these big shots, they would be trembling. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
she could literally undress you in a debate.
Wow.
She was tough, and she was all for women's rights and furthermore, excellence in everything.
Wow.
And I was 29. I'm at Texas, I'm 29, and all of a sudden, you know, all the other coaches were at least 10 years older. They not only had won, in some cases, multiple national championships, but they were either the Olympic coach in their sport, literally almost all the other coaches.
Goodness.
Or they were on that track, or they were like Jody Conrad, who you may have heard about, who turned it down. He became a Hall of Famer. So how am I going to keep up with these people? So I sort of lost my way because, well, first of all, something I realized later that was influencing me, Texas is extremely image conscious university, like a lot of these big schools.
Yeah.
Very image conscious. They're great people inside, but there's this feeling on the outside that you have to live up to an image.
Yeah.
And I bought into that too much. I said, how am I going to catch up to these other coaches? How am I going to? And so I started working from the outside in, trying to create a brand, trying to say the right things. Very, very concerned about winning and winning fast because I knew, you know, our program wasn't up to speed.
Yeah.
So
what did that look like for you, working on yourself from the outside in and creating your brand? What was the outside in approach specifically?
Well, I just wanted to make sure I was saying all the right things. I was after recruits that were 5 stars in the corporate world. They call them A players. Don't like that term, which is based on what you've done before and your talent. And I wanted to recruit all 5 stars. They weren't necessarily the right people for my program.
Yeah.
You know, they may have been right for another program. And so I loaded the team with blue chips, with 5-star, with A players.
Yeah.
And we underachieved massively.
Fascinating. And what's interesting is you said something, the way in which you intonated in that sentence, I think is important. You said, based on what they've done before.
Yeah.
As if to say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, as if to say, not based on what they could do in the future.
Right.
Is that basically what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
As Tony likes to say, because he's used my assessment in some of his jobs, and, you know, he'll be in a startup, and this is a good story. At one of his startups, the CEO said, you need to hire so-and-so, Dave, to be on your sales team. He's killing it at Oracle. Well, he gave Dave my assessment and then used the results to design questions. And one question he asked was, so have you ever had a problem with your boss? And first red flag for Tony was the guy sort of sat back and, okay. And then Tony finally got frustrated and said, look at me. He said, when you have a problem with your boss, what are you going to do if you don't agree? And basically Dave said he would say what the boss wanted to hear.
Whoa.
And so Tony said, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
So that guy obviously was probably doing repeater accounts.
Yeah.
He was very successful.
Yeah.
He built up his brand. But as Tony put it, he wasn't ready to pedal fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and of course, as you know, that's the way the world is today, whether you're in a big company or a startup.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I had to learn, I learned the hard way that I needed to recruit athletes that were certainly talented, but wanted to pedal fast and get better, that were hungry.
So how did you recover or pivot from that? So you've got this team of A players, now what?
Well, we underachieved, and then the turning point, curiously, was Donna was speaking to a group downtown, a business group, luncheon, whatever. And she was asked after during the Q&A, you say you want all your teams in the top 10. What about tennis? And she looked at that person and said, I'm going to take care of that.
Oof.
And that got back to me because one of our fans was there. And at first I was angry because I'm getting that drift, but she hasn't directly addressed that with me.
Whoa.
So I'm really angry. But then again, Carla, I mean, how can I blame her?
Yeah.
Because I'm here with all these advantages. I'm at Texas.
Yeah. With all the
And
resources
yeah,
and all the talent.
right. And I basically, the program is where I left the Buffs with with 3.5 scholarships,
Oh man.
you know?
Yeah.
So that was kind of a wake up call I had.
Yeah.
A second wake up call was, right, very soon after that was the first team meeting of year number 7. And what I had devolved to doing in those meetings was I'm in front of the team and I'm at the board and I'm going over the way we are going to go about the season in our practices. And one of the athletes raised her hand and said something like, our practices are boring. There's not enough variety, something like that.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, she wasn't trying to be inflammatory. And I'm not usually good at thinking on my feet, but I wheeled around and I said, winning colors everything. And right now we're not winning. We're not winning on Texas standards because we're not practicing winning. And that night, and I felt better immediately. And that night I just had this sense of, wow. But then I realized, what word did I say 5 times?
Winning.
So that's when it flipped. I go, you need to go back to,
Yeah.
you know, you're in your 20s at Colorado. You were channeling Coach Verdick.
Yeah.
Now you got to be Coach Verdick, but you got to be really good.
Yeah. There's a couple things that came up for me in that. It's interesting. One, my coach always says anger is determination. So it's interesting that in that moment of anger, you were determined for something to change. And the other thing that I've learned from him is that when you move emotion, there's always clarity on the other side. So the fact that you let yourself get angry, maybe not
myself.
Yeah, maybe exactly. Maybe not ideal in that situation, but because you emoted, you actually got clarity on the other side of, wait a minute, this is not actually the way I want to go about doing this.
You know, it's interesting in sports today, in life, there's too much emphasis on positivity. I think it's toxic.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, as an example, there's Novak Djokovic is probably the greatest player of all time. He's not well liked. He has controversial positions. He's very egotistical. But during matches, he'll get emotional. Now, most psychologists would say, oh no, you need to do positive self-talk and tell yourself that you can do it. Well, what Novak's saying to himself, first of all, he doesn't know you can't control the outcome. So he's getting emotional, but to your point, he's getting mad at himself and he's saying to himself, how are you going to fix this?
Yeah, determination.
And so I don't believe in obviously negative, but the positive self-talk is convenient to the layperson. It feels good.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost self-medicating, but it doesn't address the issue at the moment. This other guy's tooling with me.
Yeah.
We're in the business. This isn't cutting. It's not working. The product's not advancing. What are we going to do about it?
Right. Whereas if you listen to yourself, you know, there's wisdom in it. Like I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you felt fear when you experienced the comments from your AD and were like, oh, shoot, I'm going to get myself fired. You know, that potentially is wisdom. Like, hey, I need to do something about this. Like something's going to have to change.
Yeah.
Okay. So you realize that you've been focusing on the wrong thing. You've been focusing on your brand, your external,
how things looked,
outside in, how things looked. And then you've been focusing on winning. How did you go back to who you used to be as a coach?
Well, I was determined to do that. I started to channel Coach Verdict, but also something else happened. Donald Lopiano wanted all of the coaches to have master's degrees. I mean, can you imagine today? They don't care about that, but it was interesting. So I've got 2 young kids. What? I don't have time for this. Are you kidding? So I picked what I thought at the time, it's not now, was the easiest major, sports management. Okay, fine. But for prereqs, for sports management, among the prereqs were anatomy, physiology, biomechanics, and motor learning. For sports this isn't kinesiology. Along with personnel management and a couple of business courses. But I'm thinking, oh my God, because I'm horrible at science.
Oh, fascinating.
I mean, my
that's
ACT
horrible at
natural science was, I'm too embarrassed to tell you what it was. But those courses changed my life. To this day, they impacted not only my coaching sports, but impacting what I do today.
How so?
Well, anatomy was interesting because I was learning about this. That's the first course you take. the bones and the muscles and how they interact. And then the second course was biomechanics. So this is how you move your body. This is how you move the racket. And there's physics involved. Physics.
Oh, tell me about it.
I know. But I'd stay afterwards and ask the professor questions because I was trying to relate it to what I was doing as a coach. How do players move? And I developed in my mind a way that players should move on the court that was would have been counterintuitive to me, to the point where when I brought this to fruition, I was actually encouraging players through the way I designed the drills to move as slowly as possible to hit a quality shot rather than running as fast as you can to the ball and overrunning it, or just didn't make any sense.
I see parallels in business in that.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
And then I took motor learning, so how people learn. So that would relate to practice design. And I put the two together. How did I do that? I started to design drills and game situations where those situations taught the technique. Instead of taking you aside and feeding you balls in your forehand, hit it this way, over and over. I put it in context. So contextual learning. So, and then I added on to that the fact that these needed to be problem-solving scenarios. So it's not just can you beat your practice partner in a game we play, everything goes, because you could win that 11-point game because she made 6 errors.
So you engage the mind.
So I'd put parameters on it.
Yeah.
Like you have to finish at the net to win a point. That type of thing.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Super
And
cool.
Sometimes I'd make it almost impossible because
Yeah.
I wanted to see how they'd handle it.
Yeah.
So.
And then how did it change your recruiting?
I realized that it wasn't that I didn't want 5 stars. 5-star meaning what their ranking was, what they'd achieved before. But I had to look for a different kind of person. And I needed someone I wanted someone that was good high maintenance.
What does that mean?
So bad high maintenance, we're both familiar with.
Yeah.
You get someone that whines on the job. And
Yeah.
good high maintenance, and this is particularly true of 17-year-olds, is they're like the Bronco, right? They just haven't learned to run straight, but they want to. They're always moving. And I wanted to recruit Broncos, not donkeys. Because a donkey, in the work world, is someone who'll do what you say. They'll do their job.
Yeah.
They'll plod along. They're linear. They'll get the job done. Again, the Bronco could be a real problem, but in their heart, that fire's burning and they want to get better. Plus, I started to recruit players that Stanford and Florida in some cases, didn't even know who they were. Don't get me wrong, they were talented, but they were like those Broncos that hadn't learned how to run straight yet.
And they didn't know who they were because of their ranking or because of where they were going to school, or?
They hadn't had the coaching. They were really good athletes, and they hadn't learned the proper way to compete in tennis, which is the ball striking and the tactics and so on.
Okay.
They're sort of wild.
So how long did it take you to transform the team and turn into a national championship team?
Well, first of all, the recruiting I did, in some cases, the players I went after, it was by design. In other cases, I was a little bit lucky.
Oh.
But I started to ask a different question. So let's say you're my recruit. I would ask you questions like, so Carl, tell me about your toughest match in junior tennis. So I'm in your home and asking, and you say to me, well, it was semifinals of the national hard courts. It was 100 degrees. The other players' parents were heckling me. I got down. Oh, she was seated way ahead of me. It went to 3 sets. I persevered. I figured it out. I came out a winner. And my reply would be typically, well, I was at that match. But I have a question for you, Carla. Are you willing to come to Texas in August and compete like that every day in practice? So at that point, that person is either going to select for or select out.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be the selector.
Yeah.
And I think in hiring, that's the best. I mean, I've advised CEOs to hire that way,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? To put them in a certain position. And of course, those are behavior interview
Yeah.
questions.
Gauging for commitment as well. Yeah.
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 So those are the kind of questions that I would ask. But I just got really lucky because I was able to recruit athletes who wanted it for themselves and the team more than I wanted it for them.
Yeah.
And that may sound obvious, but that's hard to find.
Yeah. Now, when I come back to you, I see what you did in the program in terms of being inside out versus outside in. But what about yourself? What sort of work did you do yourself to be more inside out versus outside in?
I guess, as I said before, is stop pretending.
Yeah.
I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. I mean, I was really, you know, I'd gotten the job at too young of an age. I mean, we'd done well at Colorado. We were underdogs.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it, and when you're in your 20s, you have all this energy.
Yeah.
Anything's possible. You give that off.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And you haven't really thought about it. Although I did try to learn, I did try to design good drills, but a lot of it was my energy. And I think the players fed off of it. I was able to get some good transfers. Colorado had some good junior players in those years that had gone to school in California, because why would I go to CU?
Yeah.
And they came back. And then I recruited a player named Allison McAtee,
Mm-hmm.
who was top 10 in the country. I can't remember how I recruited her, how I got her to come to Colorado. An amazing person, an amazing player. The third week she was at Colorado, she was in a car accident and got killed
Oh, geez.
with her roommate, going to a
I'm
roommate's
so
house
sorry.
outside Boulder. And her best friend and doubles partner, Kathleen Cummings, we were recruiting Kathleen to come, and got her to come to Texas. And that really got me started, because Kathleen came in, she was 40 in the country. That's pretty good. Within 2 years, she was 42 in the entire world.
Whoa.
Just phenomenal competitor.
Yeah.
So that kind of got me going. That not only, helped our program,
Yeah.
but it helped me learn,
Yeah.
because I'm going to Wimbledon. All of a sudden, what?
Holy smokes.
And
Yeah.
I had to get my game.
Yeah. So, what sort of relationship? This kind of makes me wonder, what sort of relationships did you form with these women, these young women?
Well, what's interesting, I'll answer that by talking about right now. Many times when I speak to groups, or at least initially, I thought, well, I'm not the football coach. I'm not the men's basketball coach. So are they going to want to listen to me? Everyone wants to listen to that. And it occurred to me that I coached the toughest sport by far to be really good at. Tennis is impossible. I have a former player who got into the top 100 in the world, retired, and decided to take up golf, came within 2 strokes of making the tour.
Wow.
Now, golf is impossible to me,
Yeah.
but tennis is just brutal. Number one, and number two, women,
Mm-hmm.
because young guys, having been one, are stupid. We won't do, right? I mean, we will jump off a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. We won't even ask what's on the other end,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, it's relatively easy.
Yeah.
Women want to know why. So you have to build a relationship.
Yeah.
They have to trust you. So when I retired from UT, I became a high school basketball coach at St. Stephen's here in town,
Oh, yeah.
coaching boys.
Mm.
It was wonderful, because I was back coaching boys, men,
Mm-hmm.
but I was building relationships. So I was putting the two together. Whereas I could have come in, because these were the first year, they're 10th grade boys, which at that age, they'd rather wrestle with each other,
Yeah.
throw things at each other than have a conversation with anybody.
Totally.
Right? But I'm building that relationship, and I still have those relationships to this day. So I think that's what I learned. But I never really, I guess I did that intuitively, because I don't remember ever thinking, well, these are women, I better treat them differently.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I guess I sensed that.
Yeah.
Um,
How did you build trust with both men and women as you were coaching them?
I think taking interest in them as people
Mhm.
is really important.
Yeah.
Used to go to class with them, just showing that kind of interest. Got to know their parents back when you could have wonderful relationships with parents, because they never talked about the sport. They
Yeah.
never talked about their daughters.
Yeah.
And these are business people, lawyers, doctors. So, and I'm very curious wonderful relationships. And that
Mhm.
was a way to build trust in the athlete.
Yeah.
But I think developing an interest in them as people, not just, and also letting them do their thing and trusting them
Yeah.
in college.
Yeah.
They're going to party. They knew that they better not, show up at practice not ready and not in a match. But otherwise, I'm not going to, micromanage them, keep an eye on them.
Yeah.
And I didn't ever even feel compelled to do that. I know a
Yeah.
lot of coaches want to do what I did, but they just can't. But I wanted to trust them, right? And, because not that I assumed I could trust all of them, and you can't trust
Yeah.
every employee,
Yeah.
right? But you have to let them know that that's the way you roll.
Yeah.
I expect you to come in and compete at a very high level in practice, but I'm also going to let you be who you are.
Yeah. Is that how you parented your boys?
For the most part, I don't know if you can identify with this, but parents, we become creatures. We become something that we are not in real life. For instance, my younger son was a basketball recruit, and the coaches started calling me and not my son.
Mm.
And I said, "Why are you calling me?" And they would say, "Well, you're the decider." That they had determined that. And I went, "Oh, geez."
Mm-mm.
Right? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
getting too involved. And I wasn't as bad as some parents, but I should know better, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because you've seen
Um,
this from the other side. Yeah.
Now, one thing that I did do that, uh, I mean, I'm amazed, and it's something that I just sort of instinctively did, but I think it was fortuitous. I was in a certain mindset. My older son was a senior at St. Stephen's, and he had been a starter his junior year, an amazing team that beat Westlake, beat all these teams. And he was one of two returnees. And in the first season tournament in Lampasas, they lost to Lampasas by 30 points.
Oof.
And the coach came in the locker room and just unloaded on Tim in front of everyone.
Oh, goodness.
You need to step up. Probably not so appropriate. He's mad.
Mm-hmm.
So kids, I don't know how it is today, but kids don't like to talk to their parents about the game afterwards. You know how it is.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, we were taking the kids home to Austin. They weren't going home on the bus. I can't remember why. So he and I stepped off the curb of the gym, and he said, "Dad," and I went, "Oh, something went wrong." If he wants to talk about something that just happened. And he explained what happened. And I remember thinking, this is where I actually reacted, I think, in a good way. "Okay, Tim, we can do a number of things here. You can quit. You can go talk to the coach. I can go talk to the coach. I can sit in the stands with the other dads and bitch about the coach, or you can step up."
Mm.
And the next day, I remember walking in the gym, the tournament, with Ross Ollendorf, one of his teammates from the previous year, who'd come back from Princeton. And I walked in, and when I walked in, we were a little late. He stole the ball, went the length of the court, dunked, and got knocked to the floor. I was doing it. And I went,
Whoa.
so now that happened to work out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think parents need to do that more. Luckily, we did. And Tim wrote us an email when he graduated from college and said, "Thank you for letting me be me."
Oh, wow.
Because he really wasn't a great student. I don't know how your kids are, but he got by.
Yeah.
In sports, he held back until that moment.
Yeah.
So what's he going to do? Nice kid. What you see is what you get. But
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But so we actually had him tested
Mm-hmm.
in 6th grade.
Yeah.
And I remember the psychologist said, he didn't look me in the eye. And I said to the psychologist, "Look, if your parents brought you to a psychologist."
Right. To be tested.
But fortunately, we resisted pushing him beyond do your best.
Yeah.
You need to do your homework,
Yeah.
but we didn't make him feel like he had to be something special for us.
It's interesting because I was literally on a walk with a girlfriend this morning having this conversation because there's such pressure on the kids. I guess there always has been, but I'm feeling it because of the age and stage. My kids are about to be 22 and 19, and we have friends that have kids close in age and are going through the college application process right now. And I got to tell you, the college application process was horrible in terms of the pressure on these kids, we're just watching them through high school, trying to tick all the boxes and be, to your point, the outside in of what they thought they needed to be to go to the school
Yeah.
that they thought they needed to go to. And I was just so turned off by the whole process. And so, you know, to answer your question in terms of you don't know about me, with my kids, I've my kids are sporty, they're fun, they're hustlers, they're great friends. And I have, if anything, gone the opposite direction in terms of pushing them because I'm turned off by it.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't see the value
Right.
in pushing them in that way. I want to let them unfold the way they're supposed to unfold, just like you did,
Yeah.
just like your son did.
Well, and number 2 came out of the womb practicing free throws. He was the perfect child. But number 1, Tim, when he got out of college, he'd developed a love for history. He'd been a good athlete, played baseball there for a little bit, but he still didn't know exactly what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend at a former teacher at St. Stephen's, he was good with people. That was one thing. He'd worked camps, and that had been established. So this former teacher said, I have a contact in Alabama at this independent school. They're looking for a history PE teacher. Would you be interested? And Tim said, sure, I'll go interview. So it's funny. The day before he took off for the flight, he said, Dad, they want me to wear a tie. I don't know how to tie a tie. Now, that's where we were.
Yeah, exactly.
So
totally.
he goes in and he has 2 PE courses, 2 history courses, 8th grade basketball coach. Within 2 years, he's varsity basketball coach. He transforms that program.
Wow.
Dean.
Wow.
And then he's now head of the middle school at St. Andrews.
Wow. Yeah, I read that. That's super cool.
So he was that boy.
Yeah.
Who just wasn't doing anything, getting in trouble, but he wasn't a bad kid.
Yeah.
Had some great teachers along the way. And now he's that guy that works with boys.
Yeah,
and
impacting lives.
Tells the parents, okay, chill, he'll be okay.
Yeah.
No one got into college from their grades in the 8th grade.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's impacting lives. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
But you're in a tough spot because the climate now.
Yeah.
The competition to get into schools and the rush to get into the outside in.
Yeah.
The supposedly prestigious school.
Yeah.
Which is becoming less and less important.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I feel like we've messed it up. Like this is supposed to be a period of exploration for them.
Yeah.
They're supposed to try on different things for size to see what feels good, what they enjoy, not to mold themselves into a brand.
And to find their meaning.
Right. Now, one of the things, okay, so I want to talk about this because before we started recording and we were talking about the arc of the podcast, I said that I typically start with talking about how you define yourself in the world, who you are in the world. And you challenged me back. You said, I think that's part of what's wrong with the world today in terms of people are defining themselves from the outside in. Tell me more about that in terms of you think that's part of what's wrong with the world. I want to know what you're seeing right now.
Well, I know what I want to do. I want to work with people. I want to help people. I want to coach. But I don't really think about my quote brand. I'm horrible at promoting myself. I'm not criticizing people who promote themselves by any means. I wish I was better at it.
Yeah.
But I just don't think about that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I can super relate to that. Ironically enough, I'm a marketer, but I'm the cobbler's child when it comes to me. I just am wildly uncomfortable with it, and I don't feel the need for it.
You're comfortable marketing others,
but not myself.
Yeah.
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 It just doesn't feel right. And it feels like it's just to what end? Like it just doesn't feel like it's a value add.
Right.
So I struggle with it a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Okay. I want to take us in a little bit of a different direction, which is how did you become the man who you are today? We talked about you from a career standpoint, but what are the formative moments in your life and what made you this person that is so focused on helping people be better, live better, do better?
Well, I think the first thing was the 2 mentors I had. One was the coach who I talked about earlier. The other was my father, who was a head of school at several different schools over his career. And he himself was a teacher and a basketball coach at Berkshire right out of college. He went to Bowdoin. First of all, he went to Bowdoin College during the war. He was 4F. He couldn't go to the war. And he was on the basketball team. And he had a black teammate. And in those days, everyone was in a fraternity, but it's just where you ate. It was like clubs.
Yeah, yeah.
No, they didn't really have dorms. They did, but and the fraternity wouldn't let him in, the black.
Mm.
So my dad got a lawyer and went to New York and confronted the Panhellenic.
As a teen?
In college.
In
Bowdoin.
college.
And they said, nope, he's not in. And so my dad just led the effort to take them independent. Well, where he's going in.
How old was your dad when he did this?
22.
Wow.
And then his basketball teammate went on to become a very prominent neurosurgeon, of course.
Hot damn. Good for
So
your dad.
he started that, and then that sort of set the tone. And then he became a teacher, basketball coach, got to Belmont Hill School. He's 28. He's head of development. He's teaching history. He said, I want to run a school. So he interviews for Tilton School, which is a kind of a struggling second-tier boys boarding school in New Hampshire. He wears a fedora to look older. He gets out of the car to meet the head of the board of trustees, and he forgets he has a hat on, and his hat falls off. So he's so embarrassed. He recovered, interviewed well, he got the job. So now he's all full of himself, and he goes into his first faculty meeting, Carla. We've all been here, I think. And he lays out sort of what I experienced. He lays out the way things are going to roll, and we're going to take this school to places it's never been. And this is how we're going to do it. And everyone just looked back at him blankly. So he came back to my mom. My mom recalls this. She said he banged his hand on the table and said, I'm going to rule by edict.
Oh, wow.
And he was half kidding.
Yeah.
But he recovered and eventually learned to listen. And I mean, he was 28 years old.
Yeah.
Again, he was too young.
There's some parallels here. It's
Yeah.
reminiscent of that moment where you realized that you said the word winning so many times.
Yeah.
And there's some parallels.
And then the mayor of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the pastor at the Boston Avenue Methodist Church, where Oral Roberts belonged, this huge Methodist church, came to Tilton, New Hampshire, the mayor with his cowboy hat, and this is 1965, from Oklahoma. Where's that, right? We're on the East Coast. What could there be out there of any significance, right? And they're sitting in the living room of the headmaster's house, and we want you to come to Tulsa and build a school. And in those days, I mean, why would you do that?
Wow.
Your goal, if you're really good at what you do, is to be the head of Andover, right? Or one of these prestigious schools. He said, this is kind of cool. So we moved to Tulsa. Everyone said, oh, you're going to live on a reservation? You know, it was just because there was the famous New Yorker, I think that was the magazine, cover where it had the Hudson River, and everything on the map, everything west of the Hudson River was prairie.
Just blank, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he built that school. The first year he was there, it was all oil barons' kids, a very wealthy school. He made tons of changes. And the board came to him and says, you have another year. You're just causing all kinds of chaos. So what does he decide to do? He says, well, I'm going to integrate. This is Tulsa in 1966.
Amazing.
This is the South. You know.
And by integrate, you mean desegregate?
Yes, but we're going to have a black child. So he finds the son of a janitor in a local, they called them that in those days, custodian, local public school. One of the parents found him, and he said, it's not going to be an athlete. No way. And so, I'm sorry, back up. Before that, the first year, what he'd done, maybe it was the second year, but before he integrated, I'm sorry, he brought in busloads of white kids who were first gens, whose parents didn't go to college.
Yeah.
He wanted to change the culture, the demographic, before he integrated.
Yeah.
He didn't want to, today these schools
kids.
can't do that because these private schools cost so much money.
Yeah.
That, they get their diversity. Much of it's through payers.
Yeah.
People of color who can pay, and then they'll have a few that are on scholarship.
Yeah.
He was able to change the demographic and then integrate.
Wow.
So, and what are you thinking, Dad? I mean,
That's so progressive.
he got a,
What do you think drove that? What about your dad drove
I
that?
don't know. I mean, he died tragically at age 67
Oh, I'm so
of
sorry.
pancreatic cancer, and I was 40 at the time and totally into my career, and I wish I'd had more time
Yeah.
to talk about these things. But basically what he taught me, because he went from there to Denver, where he merged Denver Country Day for Boys with Kent School for Girls on one campus,
Wow.
what is today Kent Denver. But he taught me that when your team does something special, they should feel like they did it.
Mm.
So that stuck with me. And so I actually worked at his school part-time when I was at CU because I needed another job, and I taught English and coached boys basketball.
Yeah.
And so I was in on some meetings where he was run the meetings, and just watching. And I don't know if you've had this experience, but sometimes just watching,
Yeah, for sure.
because he was modeling for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't instructive,
Yeah.
right? It's sort of like being a parent. Your kids have probably picked up way more from you than you ever realized, stuff
Yeah.
that you never actually talked to them about.
1000%. You know, my daughter went to St. Stephen's,
Oh,
and we went to one of our first parent events. They brought in therapists to come talk to us about parenting in kind of high risk environments. It was right before Austin City Limits Festival. And one of the things the therapist said, and I'll never forget it, is she said, look, keep talking to them. They are listening, whether it sounds like it or not, looks like it or not, they are listening. She said, but more than listening, they're watching.
yes.
And so pay attention to what you're doing because you're modeling for them. And that one stuck, Jeff. Like that one for me really stuck.
And I think that happens in the workplace too.
For sure. For sure.
It's just that kids are far more perceptive than
right.
adults.
Totally.
Yeah.
And they'll call you out on it.
Yeah.
But okay, so I want to talk about, well, before we move on, what is your father's name?
Herbert B. Moore.
Herbert B. Moore. Okay,
Yep.
well, let's honor Herbert. He was
Yeah.
bold. Good
Bert.
for
We'll call him Bert.
Bert. Okay,
Yeah.
let's honor Bert. Yeah, he was bold. Good for him.
Yeah, very
He-
bold.
he
And
changed
so
the
was my
traject-
coach, and we're lucky. I'm sure you've had them.
Yeah.
To have those mentors is something. My kids roll their eyes, but I say look for that mentor.
Yeah.
That's beyond your parents.
Yeah. You know, I've been, just as an aside, this has come up for me this week. I've had amazing mentors throughout the years and amazing peer mentors. But for the first time in a long time in my life, I don't have a mentor. And so like it's coming up again. I need to make sure that this is something I want to solve for in my life because it's so
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to transition to the corporate world. So how do you go from a national championship winning UT women's tennis coach to the corporate world to coaching C-level executives and teams?
Well, it wasn't an automatic transition. It wasn't something that I thought about doing while I was coaching, but near the end of my coaching career, what ended up being the end of my coaching career, I was driving into work from Lost Creek, and I got off of Mopac on Enfield, and I thought one day, how many times have I done this drive? Now, looking back on it, that's a sign, right?
Yeah.
So I just got really tired of the routine of it. I still love the practices. We'd already won a couple times. Not that you should be satisfied with winning, but that's the ultimate. And you can try to do it again with different people, but there's also a sameness to it.
Yeah.
So I needed something different. And so when I did retire, when I did finally get out of it, the day after, I expected to be sort of, oh, geez, what am I going to do now? And, oh, I missed that. I had this feeling of euphoria.
Mhm.
I don't know why. And not that I had in mind what I was going to do next. What I did next was for 2 years, I was an associate AD at Texas,
Mhm.
helping them raise money, do other types of things. And I coached the basketball team at St. Stephen's on the side. So I did that,
Mhm.
which was a wonderful experience because it was therapeutic because you're out of that university.
Yeah.
High pressure. It's just kids and let's get better.
Yeah. And
We
it's a
had
special
great-
environment too.
Yeah, we had really good success and but more importantly, it was fun. And I still keep in touch with those kids today.
Mhm.
After UT, after those 2 years, I had to get a job. So someone who was a parent at Trinity Episcopal here in town said, well, they're looking for an AD. And I go, oh. So I went to apply for that. And the head of school at the time was also very progressive because I would be in very unorthodox hire. Didn't come up through the system. Um, and I told him, I said, I'm trouble. Hopefully I'm good trouble. Because I'm going to do things differently.
Yeah.
And he liked what he heard. So I became the AD at Trinity. And maybe the first couple of weeks on the job, I'd talk to parents, and I hadn't really been in that world other than what was involved with my kids. So I didn't know what was going on. I knew that the kids we were starting to get in college were more entitled. It was more difficult to ask that question, are you ready to compete like that every day at Texas in August? It would scare them away.
Yeah.
They wanted to be affirmed. It was very, very difficult. And now I knew why, because these parents weren't allowing their kids to compete, which to me was get in the ring, try new things. So I called up my friend Paul Wardlaw, the coach at Brown, who's a wordsmith, and he's a philosophy major. He works with coaches now using philosophers, Immanuel
cool.
Kant, and he does different things. He goes, look up the word compete. And I look on my computer. Okay, it says to outdo another, it says, for prize or supremacy. I said, Paul, that's not competing. That doesn't encap. He goes, okay, scroll to the bottom and look up the origin. What does it say, Jeff? To strive together.
Oof.
To strive in common. That's the original meaning.
Huh.
So the light went on.
What a different translation. Yeah.
And he said, so, what you've always been about is building the kind of relationships that are competitive, that have to do with striving together, competitive in the striving together sense. So in the athletics handbook, my philosophy was, we're going to help your children build a strong relationship to self, that internal conversation you have with yourself, am I going to do this or not? Team, which is your peers. Boss, which in that case was the coach. In the corporate world, of course, if you have them, it's your direct reports. So that was the start of those 4 relationships. So, I had pushback from, how when you do something different, you have early adopters. Yeah, this is great. You have people on the other going, I had one parent say, you don't understand, my son's going to get a baseball scholarship. Mind you, he's in the 6th grade. As a younger person, I would have become very defensive, but I said to him, that's great. If he wants to reach that goal, these things are important.
Yeah.
But I had some people that were violently against it. They wanted me to create a football culture, and not that, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to create a spirit within the department.
Yeah.
So, and then you had the big group in the middle who were like, this is interesting, but they still tended to want to do what the Joneses were doing. So I took down most of the banners for anything other than first place. And in the gym, and as you walk in the gym, I put the banners on this side so you weren't looking at them.
Yeah.
And then under the scoreboard, I put respect, teamwork, and perseverance, because I knew people would look at the scoreboard and I wanted them focused on the process. And some parents really liked it, but I think it helped me because it fleshed out what I ended up
Your
doing.
methodology.
And, one of the parents who taught me the most, I don't know, do you know Jimmy Trebig?
I know the name. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I read that you worked for Rackspace. I think he was an early investor or something.
Okay. Maybe that's where it's good.
But
And also
he
in real estate, maybe?
He was one, no, he was one of the, he was Tandem Computers.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He was one of the, he's in that movie about Silicon Valley, the start of it.
Okay.
So he's an angel investor. He's the kind of guy where I can be at a St. Stephen's basketball game and Michael Dell can be there. And when the game's over, he comes right over to Jimmy.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a really smart guy. And he said, you know what you've done here, Jeff? Because we would talk in his office. He said, you've developed a spirit. I said, Jimmy, what's that? He said, well, you just feel it. You don't have to have core values on the wall. You really don't. It just feels different. It feels good. The kids feel challenged, but they'd enjoy it. So we had rules like your daughter or son, if she's upset about the coach, needs to go talk to the coach before the parent talks to anyone, which was not real well received. But what was happening is The girl volleyball player would go and talk to the coach, and she wouldn't come out with what she necessarily wanted to hear. I'm going to start. But they developed, I said, I want you to develop, your child to develop a relationship with the coach that's separate, I didn't say this part, from you. Parents weren't allowed to practice, right? My parents didn't come to school unless they were invited. So it was very, very different. And I think it helped me prepare me for what I didn't realize at the time, what I was going to do next.
And how did it come to you? How did you make that transition into the corporate world?
I left Trinity and I was immediately contacted by Colorado Academy in Denver, at K through 12. Will you come be our AD? And I loved the head of school, very super young, progressive. And I said, I'm trouble. He goes, we need trouble. We have incredible fine arts. Our athletic program is high quality. I want you to compete with him, the head of the. So I'm going to interview. He's great. They're wonderful. The board was fantastic, very unusual for this day and time. They weren't intrusive. They wanted what was good for their kids. But I thought to myself, as much as it's necessary, I'm not sure I want to listen to the dad or mom about the volleyball coach.
Yeah.
I didn't want to keep doing that.
Play the movie again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I turned him down and I became a speaker, started to speak at every Rotary in town. This was 2011. And then I started to put together informally an assessment. I thought, maybe I should go try to coach. Because speaking was, I don't know what your experience has been, but when you speak, let's say you have a great impact. It's very well received. Well, that's fine, but then you leave.
Yeah, then it's gone. It dissipates really quickly.
It's like, motivational speaker just didn't. So I took those 4 relationships along with my rough idea of what the attribute should be to a psychologist at UT, to the department, and they put me in touch with this PhD student, the first guy that I interviewed. And I remember walking in, he had his feet up on the table, and he said, "What's in this for me?" Meaning the assessment.
Wow.
And I'll do it for $33 an hour.
What?
So I said, I'll think about it. Smart, because I didn't say yes or no. And so I went home, and a week later, another guy emailed me, Scott Leaning, and he said, I'm interested. So I talked to him, and he did it for $15 an hour. He was fantastic. He helped me design. Today, he's head of statistics at Michigan.
Very cool.
So he was a young PhD student.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want this to be a throw together. It needed to be reliable.
Yeah.
And there's a way to do that. And that was fun because he's familiar with personality assessments. And he said, what you're doing here is different, because he said the limitation of a personality assessment is it can tell you who you are in the moment and can create great self-awareness. But inevitably, you're going to have to adapt who you are.
Yeah. He
said, what you're doing is you're showing them where they are and where do they want to go.
Fascinating.
So there's personality inevitably baked into it. So he said, you're not doing discrete personality traits, which are to an extent abstract. These are tangible and truly actionable. So you're doing something very different.
Okay, I can't wait to take it. I know it's in my inbox right now, and I'm looking forward to taking it over the holidays. And then what do you do with what you learn in the assessment? So how do you use the assessment?
Well, he was just great. He goes, don't put numbers on it. He said it'd be based on numbers, 0 to 100. But and there'll be a little red mark where you are along the scale. But he said the problem today, he was a millennial, and he goes, we all want grades. I'd rather have you give me a D than not give me a grade.
Yeah.
Right? Just
let me know where I stand.
Let me know where I stand. And that led to how do I compare? How am I competing? So that was the first thing. And then he helped me put this together. And basically he said, what you're evaluating is people's willingness to strive together in these 4 relationships: self, team, boss, and direct reports.
Yeah.
And it's a snapshot of where you are as a person. And inevitably, like people, if you take it and you're in your work mindset, whether you're in your work mindset or your personal life mindset, it's usually irrelevant. It's just where you are as a person in general. So relationship to self is by far the most important. And it's the key in any team. each person's relationship to self is absolutely the most important thing, because before you decide what you're going to do in your relationship with your teammate, you have to make that decision. What are you bringing to the team? There's way too much emphasis on teamwork.
This is so
You know what I
fascinating.
mean?
Yeah, this is so fascinating, Jeff, because when I started to work with my coach about 7 years ago, I was very resistant. And I said to him, this work feels self-indulgent. I want to work in service of others. I don't want to focus on myself. And it took him a while to get through to me that connection to self was connection to others. And what I didn't realize, and I think what's so important in what you're saying, I think you can apply this to work. I think you can apply this to family systems. I think you can apply this to life in general. Relationship to self is relationship to others.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
Well, and I wrote an article about a workshop I did with Octane, one of Tony's companies.
Yeah.
It was one of his people, two people who led two different sales teams. And we did a workshop, and they were all, the oldest was probably 33, 34. They're young people, wonderful group of kids. I call them kids. And one of the activities I do in the workshop is I say, all right, I want you to take notes right now on a time when you were part of a team working on a project and it didn't go well, or it fails. Then I want, and by the way, at this point in the presentation, the workshop, they've already seen, and I've had them actually, I haven't told them what the attributes are in relationship to self. I've sort of guided them there, and so it's on the board. So I said, if you were to demonstrate one or more of these attributes, how could you have made it better? Okay, I want you to take notes on that. Okay, you've taken your notes, go pair up and go tell your story to your partner, and then come back. So they came back, and one of three things happened. So I said, any volunteers to share? First example is the most obvious. They just didn't get it. Well, we were part of this project where this is what we were involved in. You know, and if my boss hadn't, or my teammate hadn't.
Blame.
Right. The second, which is interesting, is just as bad. Well, we discussed how if you're in a situation where things aren't going well, you should be accountable. Made it theoretical. And I wrote an article called Shed Your Performing Self about this workshop. Then there was Tracy Ekoa. And he said, well, I'll tell you my story. He said, I was at Little Elm High School in a 6A school. I was the homecoming king. I was on the honor roll. I was captain of the basketball team, the point guard. It looked like we were going to be not only be in the playoffs, but advance. And, near the end of the season, our top scorer got hurt. And so we start to slide a little bit. And then right before the playoffs, during a practice, my coach stopped practicing, came over and got in my face. My coach, who's normally reserved, and said, you need to step up. You need to start leading. Just really let loose. And Tracy said, he said, I really didn't. Right. What he wanted him to do is, instead of distributing, he wanted him to really take charge. And he said, what that coach did was really important. He wanted me to bring my better self to the team. So everyone in the room was kind of shocked. It's like, wasn't that inappropriate? Well, of course. But what was he going to do? The way he looked at it is, what do I need to do to make the team better?
Yeah.
Right. And it changed. Then someone else would share who had a similar experience, who was shy to share before that. And it changed the way the entire team looked at it then.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to do.
Yeah. What's interesting is that story is similar to the story about your son and the coach yelling at him, which is also similar to the story of you at UT. In that moment, we got the feedback indirectly that something needed to change in the women's tennis department. And then it almost ties back to the thread we were going there with your father, where, they were like, what are you doing? When he was in Tulsa running that school, and making a mess of things.
Right.
And it's the reason I bring it up, Jeff, is because we all face these moments in our life and our careers where somebody calls us out. And what you're bringing our attention to is, what are you going to do about it when that happens?
Right.
Are you going to shrink?
Right.
or are you going to step into it?
Right. And when you ask me, who are you in the world, you just connected some things that I'll be honest, I've never connected those things.
Really?
No, I mean, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is just all of this analysis of where you are and where are you and where are you going, and you know what I mean?
Doesn't matter.
No,
It's all
no.
unfolding anyway.
But actually, where it really hit home for me was I was working with the Clemson men's soccer team.
Mm-hmm.
They had just lost in the finals of the NCAAs to Stanford, and so I did 3 days of work with them, and on the last day, they were about to go to Argentina and play clubs. And the coach knew damn well this was not going to be easy because they aren't like our academies here, our sports academies. These are tough kids that come from nothing, and it's state supported.
Yeah.
And you were born in South America?
Well, my parents are from Uruguay. Yeah. So yeah, that's where I hail from. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is a whole different deal. But I asked the question, I go, so you guys have been great to get to know you. You've made great progress. You're bringing a new sense of urgency to practice, blah, blah, blah. What have you learned? How are you going to keep this going? And the captain, they're all sitting in front of me. It's hot and it's an April practice. And the captain raises his hand and he said, we need to keep each other accountable. And at that moment I'd been sort of hearing that. I went, oh, so if something goes wrong, the first thing you're going to do is call a teammate or call your parents or call which became a thing, your accountability partner.
Yeah.
Why don't you try this? And I went down the line with each guy and I looked at him and said, why don't you be accountable? You be accountable. That's kind of where it started. And I went, oh, geez, because my generation had that quality in spades, but we went on steroids, right? Yeah. The sense of self became self-absorption. And by the way, by we, I not only mean boomers, but male white boomers, we run the world. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How's that going? So, yeah. So, and because everyone blames the younger generation for the whole personal branding thing. Yeah. Right. And the entitlement. Yeah. But we raised them.
Totally. They're a product of us.
So that's the way I flip on it. I remember I talked to all the athletes at Bowdoin when I was working there. And after the speech, I talked about my generation, how every generation has its challenges. And I said, your only challenge is, well, first of all, unlike my generation, you want to be part of something meaningful as a generation. You want to be part of something bigger than yourself. Mm-hmm. I said, what you need is that stronger sense of self. What am I going to bring to it? Mm. And the feedback was, you're the first old person that hasn't bashed our generation.
That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. I'm anti-generational bashing. I actually think the generations that are coming up behind us are pretty cool. Yeah. Like if we open our mind to it, they are really cool. Some of the things that they're doing. Jeff, I want to take this we can go in a couple different directions, but I'm curious, you mentioned it, the world is being run by white men. And what's your wish for the world right now? What's your hope for the world based on where we are today or where we think we are?
Well, I work with businesses and schools, even worked with the orchestra at Texas State.
Oh, cool.
All kinds of organizations. But my overarching goal is to meet the kinds of people that are in important positions who want to understand what it means to strive together, because unless we begin to strive together, we won't be able to embrace the tension and the pressure that we're feeling and solve and attack the seemingly insurmountable problems we're facing, climate change, the challenges of AI, unless we strive together. Yeah. I was part of Bill Cunningham, the former chancellor at UT, who came to Texas with me when he was just a professor. We've known each other for a while. He got me in with no labels. Do you remember them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember them.
Who actually did incredible work initially getting 30 Republicans and 30 Democrats in the House to solve what we used to call Congress, but they call it the Problem Solvers Caucus. Mm-hmm. Then they did the third party president thing, which turned me off.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. But I'm on a Zoom with a bunch of other people, and Dick Gephardt, formerly Democrat, Tom Davis, former Republican, are talking about how they worked in Congress. And they seemed very collegial. I had trouble at times. Who's the Democrat? Who's the Republican? Okay. And it seemed, friendly and cooperative and collaborative. And at one point he said, now you people need to understand that when we were in that room, things got pretty gnarly. And I wanted to just stop the video.
Yeah.
Because it was so obvious that what they meant is they were in the ring competing.
Yeah.
To come out with something, they were making each other vulnerable, to come out with something that was better for the country, right? And when they left that meeting, what's happened in that room stayed in that room.
Yeah.
They went and had a beer. There was respect.
Yeah.
And so that's an example of what needs to happen in every industry.
Yeah.
Is right now, and I'll use politics as an example, you got R's on one side and D's on the other, and there's the boxing ring, and they're not in the ring. They're on the side with their social media,
Yelling
screaming
at each other. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
They're just safe behind there, and it's both sides. I think the money is a problem. Campaign finance
For sure.
needs to probably, despite what the Supreme Court's done, there needs to be some legislation. We've tried before. I think that's the key, because they're all getting paid.
Yeah.
It's power and there's pressure.
Yeah.
But whether it's politics or business, we have to get back to businesses, politicians that want to make a difference.
Yeah.
Not that being rich or powerful is a bad thing, or being important.
Yeah. But both things can be true.
Right.
That's why the work that I do with the Aspen Institute is so important to me. And I would totally agree with you. This, the future of humanity depends on our ability to strive together. And you said at the beginning of our podcast that you strove for meaning versus waiting for the calling. But I have to tell you, Jeff, witnessing you are very much in your calling.
Yeah.
You're very much in your calling.
Well, thank you. I thank you. I don't think everyone should assume that if they find something that has meaning and they're pretty good at it, that it will end up being their calling.
Yeah.
But no, I know
that's
what you
okay.
mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it just has to mean something, and it doesn't have to be this life-changing event, especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't very good at it in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I liked it. And I kept going.
Yeah. What keeps you going now?
Working with leaders, trying to communicate this. I think striving together is the highest level of working together.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, because collaborate is a word that was co-opted during the Industrial Revolution when Henry Ford was making the same car, same color, same price. It was meant to drive efficiency, and it was also illegal to collaborate with the enemy. So as Phil Wilson, one of my early clients was Phil Wilson at LCRA. I worked with them for a while. Incredible leader. He said, some history major, he said, I don't like that word either. What does it mean? Would we rather work together than not? Of course. But once we come together, what are we doing? It's just so broad. So I'm convinced it was manufactured by some business people, maybe organizational theory people sitting around a room going, we're starting to work in teams more. We need a word.
Yeah. But just like the story you told about the Republican and the Democrat, I'd rather be in impassioned fight with someone to get together, to strive together.
Right.
Collaborate just kind of feels like the safe way, and it feels like it might involve some trade-offs.
And collaborate could mean you're doing that, but there's so it's putting meat on the bone of that. And the whole thing about being in the ring, when you and I are in the ring as part of a team and we're going at it, the person who's running the meeting officiates. So let's bring it down. The leader. And so that's what I work with the leader on. And the leader might say, okay, why don't you guys shut it down for a minute and let's hear from Sally. What do you think? And Sally, never speaks up. She kind of sits on her hands. She's a little different. She just came on the team. We're not sure what we think of her. But I know as the leader, she's got, the wheels are turning.
Yeah.
And she's contributing. So I call on her, and that sends a message to the rest of the team. Oh, and Sally comes up with a comment. That's great.
Tony described me to you as the man who does that in the room, actually. When he was describing me to you, he was like, Jeff is this kind of quiet, unassuming. He's in the back corner of the room. And suddenly a silence befalls the room, and he asked the question. He asked the question that we really need to all ask, or that subtly redirects us to the thing that we need to be focused on.
Mm-hmm.
So my hope for this podcast in particular, Jeff, is that someone hears you and it is that question, that subtle redirect that they need. And for me, this notion of thriving together, striving together, relationship to self, the work that you do, I think is super, super important in the world right now. And I just want to say thank you for the work that you do.
Yeah, and I think it's important how the leader creates that environment.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to hear about that a
Yes,
little bit?
please. Yeah, tell me more.
So, because one of the things I'm passionate about is we conflate leadership and management. People in leadership positions will say, put leadership at the top of the list, right? And then the next breath, they're talking about the ability to manage people. Mm-hmm. Management's for process and systems. When it's applied to people, those people become resources on a spreadsheet, right? Bodies. We both know
bodies.
this.
Mm-hmm.
So what is a manager doing if Carla, one of his workers, is doing really well? What a manager will do is message Carla, be in my office. Carla, great job, right? You took the strivership quotient assessment. This quarter, I'm going to give you a 4 out of 5 on resilience, right? A manager will get in front of his or her team and say, these attributes are what I'm about, what the company's about. This is going to be on the wall in every building in the room. A manager will start a meeting going, let's be problem solvers today. And then the meeting will take its course. At the end, he might say, way to be resilient. Now, all of that's great, but if that's the way, and it's well-meaning, but if that's the approach, those attributes, core values, whatever, they live in the abstract.
Yeah.
So what does a leader do? If Carla's doing well, I'm going to get off my butt and I'm going to go do a walk around. And there are all the workspaces out there. And I'm going to create what I like to call intentional serendipity. Mm. So for all you and your coworkers know, I'm just walking around, right? And I come by your workspace. Oh, Carla, by the way, you're making great progress on that project. How did you solve problem X? Mm-hmm. You must have had to come at that 10 different ways. And or you had to break down every door in this building. Mm-hmm. You would not let go. And in that meeting last week, you got something out of Sally. You called on Sally, and no one else on the team realized she had something to offer. You pulled that out, right? And so what I'm doing there is I'm cultivating, my way of thinking, what I learned to do is cultivate in you the willingness to stretch, mm-hmm. not prescribe it.
Yeah.
Or teach it. I don't really even believe in the word teach anymore, per se.
Yeah.
I'm going to cultivate in you learning. And in that way, just like that question, are you prepared to come to Texas in August and compete like you did every day, like you did in that tournament? Mm-hmm. It's a question or it's an observation that plants seeds. Yeah. Right? And it's a much higher bar than the results bar. Yeah. Because if all I'm talking about is results, the bar's going to get lower. You're just going to find that low enough, high enough bar. Yeah. Does that relate to what you see in the workplace?
Absolutely. And what it also does is it creates the oxygen for someone to surprise you with something. Because when you're creating that sort of environment, then you're not dictating a solution. You're not dictating a process per se. It's kind of what you were doing on the tennis court when you redesign practice.
Right.
You're giving someone the opportunity to show you how they think and to surprise you.
Right. Right.
So I have absolutely seen that in the workplace, the difference between managers and leaders. Mm. And unfortunately, there's a lot more managers than there are leaders out there.
Yeah. What do you think in the workplace? My observation is if you didn't major in business, but, mm-hmm. If you major, especially if you major undergrad business, and then of course maybe get your MBA, you're basically trained in a world of numbers.
Yeah.
And you may take your perfunctory obligatory leadership, which is actually, I took personnel management as part of my prereqs. I was like, oh, Jesus. It's like I felt like I was in trade school.
Yeah.
I'm not learning anything.
Yeah.
I could learn this, you know,
Yeah.
if it was today, I just learned it online and or on the job. And so what I've discovered is even some people who hire me who are already really good with people and they're leading intuitively, even they, since they've come up in the business world, people are bodies. They're on that spreadsheet with the other resources.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure human resources is a good thing to say.
Yeah.
Resource.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even well-meaning, is that true?
Yeah, very much so. A couple things. So I would say for me, I used to be that person that talked about bodies and resources. And while I didn't go to business school, that was certainly hammered into my brain over the years. I had the great fortune, as you know, to study architecture, and I think that just taught me a different way of thinking, which really helped serve me in business.
Yeah.
And I am a huge proponent of unconventional backgrounds as a result. I was also running restaurants and bars at the same time, which really impacted me. The combination of those things going on in my life.
Yeah, because you had the people part.
Exactly. And the cash flow. So it really, until you have to call people on a Friday and tell them their paycheck isn't going to clear, and they have to wait until over the weekend, you haven't learned to manage cash flow.
Right.
But that really impacted me. And it was interesting when my daughter's attending TCU, and when we were visiting universities, we met with this awesome professor at TCU who chairs their entrepreneurship program. His name is Paul Evans. And he asked my daughter what she was going to study. And she said business. And he said, okay, with what?
What?
And she said, what do you mean? And he said, well, fine if you want to study business, but what's your interest? Because how are you going to build a business if you don't cultivate this other side of yourself?
Wow.
And he said to her, he was like, sure, you can study business and you can go into finance or you can go, work for an investor. Great. And he said, but what are you going to cultivate in yourself? And he said, the best businesses I have coming out of TCU, because they have an incubator at TCU that's funded and run by the students. He said, the best businesses we have coming out of TCU are actually the art students right now.
Yes.
And he said, because they're learning business and they're creating. And so, and a light bulb went off in my daughter's eyes, a twinkle went on. And that's when she made the decision to go to TCU.
Wow.
She may not realize it, but that was when her eyes lit up.
Is she artistic?
She is. And she had denied that part of herself because she felt like that's not how you make a living.
It's not useful.
Yeah. But just like you're describing looking for meaning, and following your enjoyment, even if you didn't know how it was going to pan out, in a way, he was telling her that too, like cultivate this other side of yourself.
Well, and inevitably, you have to be creative.
Yeah.
In every job in the corporate world,
Absolutely.
you have to invent, adapt, and reinvent.
Exactly.
Constantly.
Well, and especially now, so you mentioned AI, in the Aspen Institute, a lot of what we talk about is we read the old philosophers, and we know through reading Aristotle and Plato that the highest form of human expression is the arts.
Right.
And so we are, I think, in unprecedented yet very exciting times. Yeah. I'm an optimist at heart. That doesn't mean I'm not a realist. I know that it's going to be a tough transition for us. But I think also part of what your story teaches us is to be open. Yeah. To be open-minded.
Right.
And to not play chess with your life necessarily.
Right. I am nervous that people in the business world who don't have your type of background or don't have the good fortune to be mentored by, is it Paul Evans? Mm-hmm. People like that are just going to be too out of touch to realize, because there's an article in Forbes recently about how business leaders want their employees to innovate, but they expect compliance. And it also...
What does that even mean?
Meaning, it's innovating is okay until you get it slightly off course.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And Been there, done that.
Yeah, and they also said, to get back to the manager versus leader, don't talk about culture, create it. Hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cultivate it. So I think this is, and Jensen Wang, the NVIDIA dude, on an interview, I think it was fairly recently, he actually said, we're going to see the revival of the English teacher. And the interviewer went, what are you talking about? He said, well, AI is going to be able to code and to do all these task-oriented things, but someone's going to have to know what to ask it, and someone's going to have to lead those people.
Yeah.
You're going to have to learn how to critically think.
Yeah.
So I think the striving together
communicate.
piece is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Because it's already, isn't it, the Wild Wild West?
Yeah. Totally.
Is that what you're seeing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did we leave anything unsaid, Jeff? Is there anything that
I don't think so. How about you?
Yeah. No, I'm feeling great about it. I feel like this is just the beginning. I'm happy to know you. I'm so happy that Tony connected us.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling, I hope our paths are going to continue to cross and that we continue to get to know one another.
For sure.
And get to work on something together. That would be fun.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to put that out there.
What are you doing besides this?
I'm coaching people
Oh,
as
you're
well.
coaching as well.
Yeah. Although it's funny, I don't know that I've even formally admitted it on the podcast. I've become somewhat the accidental coach.
What's that?
Well, I didn't set out to do it. I didn't hang a shingle. I didn't put it on LinkedIn. But slowly but surely people started to ask me to work with them. And if I'm being honest, Jeff, it's something I've always done, but I've done it for free. And just some people in my network wanted to formalize it. And in the last several months, it's really kind of taken off. And
wow.
I find it extraordinarily fulfilling.
Yeah.
So it's been really meaningful.
I bet, I don't know if you're having the same experience I am, but you're learning.
1,000%.
I mean, I learned more in the last 10 years than I learned in my entire coaching career.
1,000%.
Because, as a coach or in your job, you would see people at conferences, you'd be on the phone with them on Zoom. But now you and I are in their element.
Totally.
And
Side
we're
by
thinking
side.
like, oh, there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Totally.
And how do I adapt to this person?
Yeah.
Right?
My first coaching job actually was at Dell. I was a sales coach. And I raised my hand and I said, you guys need this resource. And Dell was the sort of environment where if you saw a problem and came up with a solution, they would take a bet on you. It was super fun that way. And so initially my approach was, okay, I was measured on low performers. We got to get low performers to hitting their number. So I would sit with all the low performers. And I was like, well, this is not helping things. I'm just learning how to be a low performer, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Right.
So I said, I need to sit with all the top performers. Well, I was a good seller. And part of how I earned that position was because I was overtaking my numbers. I knew that there was more than one way to do it. So I began to sit with all the top performers so that I could then teach what they were doing, what we were doing to the other people in the organization.
Yeah.
And I became the strongest seller that I could be through getting to bear witness to that. So to your point, I'm learning a ton.
Yeah.
In terms of, and I'm seeing patterns and it's really powerful. So you and I should probably just have a talk just on that alone. Yeah.
You're allowing yourself to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens in traditional schools is not learning.
Yeah.
It's absorb, regurgitate.
Right. Memorize, regurgitate.
And what research proves is when you study something that you're going to be tested on, you forget it 3 months later.
Yeah.
Like they did a study, one of many, Lawrenceville School, very prestigious school. Kids took a physics test, average grade B+, took the same test 3 months later, average grade F.
Yeah.
So it's just pointless.
Totally.
That's why I'm not the teaching thing.
Yeah, it's do a disruption.
Cultivating learning.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Plant those seeds.
Yeah, I say that Dell was my MBA.
When were you there?
I was there from 1999 to 2014.
Okay, in marketing.
Actually, in sales. I grew up in the sales organization. Marketing was my very last stint there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember Karen Fuller?
No.
Well, maybe she got out before that.
Yeah.
Because at Trinity, we had a lot of Dellionaires.
Yeah.
A ton. Matter of fact, they're the ones that started the school. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Yeah. And one of the parents was Joel Cover.
Yeah.
Woo! Do you know him?
Yeah. I know him personally, but I know
He's
of him.
a piece of work.
Yeah,
He told me this. He's very proud of it. He rented the Irwin Center and got all the Dell employees in there and showed up with military gear. And he scared the of me as a parent at Trinity.
Oh, God.
Because he said he wanted to talk to me about my philosophy.
And
I was scared to death, not scared to death, but I go, oh, geez, this isn't going to, because I'd already known he was kind of a hard ass, kind of like, he sits down, he goes, you really opened my eyes. Yeah. So I got to know his kids. And
Yeah. Isn't that funny? How you brace yourself?
I think he had matured beyond that point, because apparently he drove the early growth with Michael.
Yeah. And that was kind of the culture back in the day. You know, people used to walk the aisles with baseball bats, swinging baseball bats. You know, it was kind of like this rough culture, but it was, but I thrived in it. I loved it.
Yeah.
For me, it was an awesome education. I got to work in every geography and every type of sales role.
Wow.
And every vertical. It really was a massive, massive education. I had phenomenal mentors. I have family, I have godchildren from Dell.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was very, very formative.
Was that when Harslam came in? Tom Meredith and
Yeah. Well, actually, Tom Meredith predated me.
Oh, he predated. When did Michael bring and Eric Harslam? Those two were brought in because Dell was hitting a snag, and they were brought in to sort of. Harslam was more the tech guy.
Yeah.
He invented several things. He's an odd duck.
Yeah.
Gotten to know him a little bit.
Yeah.
He's back here in Austin.
Cool.
But well, you've so you've done IBM,
NI,
National Instruments, and
Rackspace,
and Dell, and Rackspace.
I was the CMO at Rackspace.
You've seen it all.
I've seen a lot of this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I joke that I've been yelled at by titans of industry.
What a privilege.
What a privilege, right?
Yeah.
Man, I could have used you as a coach in some of those days. There were moments where I shrunk when I could have definitely stepped up and stepped into it. But
well, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was part of your
the
for
journey.
both of us, education.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jeff Moore. I appreciate you.
Thanks
for making this time on this afternoon.
Appreciate you doing it.
Yeah. I hope to have you back.
Yay, Tony.
Yay, Tony. Go, Tony. Thank y'all for listening today. If you're so inclined, please follow, subscribe, download, share, all of the things so that we can keep going. We appreciate your support so much. If you're interested in learning more, go to thecoeffect.co.